Do you think educators, and it probably comes back to time, do you think educators are curious enough about technology and what it can do for them? Do you think there's an element of, and the same with, I think with companies, are they curious enough about the real problems that basically sometimes are in schools? I always find that, going back to innovation, I think you need both parties to be curious, to be challenging each other. And do you think that's happening enough?
I think there's loads of curiosity. I mean, the reason I've stayed in education for so long is it's difficult not to walk through education and find someone that's curious about something, and drive that curiosity. I think actually a phrase you've used is one of my pet hates, which is are people curious about technology? And I go, nobody's. I mean, there are a few of us that are curious about technology, but we tend to work in technology. In education, the moment you say, why don't you understand my technology, you turn off 90% of your audience, because suddenly you jumped into anorak world of technology and moved, and the perception is you moved away from education. I think that's where the outcomes piece that we've talked about, the actually, if I can put it back to you in terms that you understand, and terms that mean something to you, like how can I have an impact on time? How do I, that real-time data, what impact does that have on you versus waiting 24 hours, versus how does that assessment of moving you forward, that amount of time in terms of your capability, that in 2 hours move you forward 5 years, what impact does that have on you? That makes it much more real and avoids the often still difficult technology barrier that comes in with adopting things. And back to the innovation piece, that's where we as software providers have to get better. We have to build innovative, intuitive interfaces to make sure that it is easy for people just to pick up, and it is easy for people to run with it. And so I think it's all about making sure that there's value in it, and that value is in the hands of the user, and that's where the curiosity then comes to life, right? That's why we focused on the white papers and the thought leadership piece, because it's not really anything to do with education or education technology. It's all about the impact you have on education.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And actually, in some ways, the curiosity probably should be coming from the suppliers, really, in the sense of understanding what the needs are far greater and what the value they can deliver. And you're right. And the technology should just be a thing that happens, in the sense of it's in the background. Don't worry about it. It's working. I suppose that leads on.
If people want to be super curious with the techies, then I'm quite happy to introduce you to a whole bunch of techies, and you can have that curiosity conversation. And most people I find are just not. They're curious about what impact will it have, and what impact will it have on me, and what impact will it have on my day. And that's where the curiosity stems from. And if you can harness that and find a software, process, people answer to that solution, then great.
Yeah, no, totally accept that for sure. I think that also leads quite nicely onto my next question, really, because one of the other things that Jim was talking about was very much about, how do we as the ed tech industry or across the whole of the ed tech industry, that includes support teams and lots of other people, how do we make it easier for teachers and schools to understand the value they have? And I suppose the term I always like to use is, how do you reduce the friction? How do you get to the point where, including all the way through from the buying process, so awareness first of all anyway, but then through the buying process to the point of just getting to the value. I don't want to go through lots and lots of processes. It's a little bit like when with your smartphone these days, if you play a game on there or anything you do with your smartphone, and I think this is where people are definitely used to this, it's easy to purchase, it's easy to understand what it does in the first place, and then it's very easy to get to the value, because they take you to the value straight away. All the other additional functionality around the outside, which is not necessarily 100% needed, is sort of, don't worry about it. We'll introduce that to you one bit at a time, as we know. So, is that something which, is important now? Is it important to RS? And I guess it is, it's a silly question to ask in some ways. But also, are there things that you're doing which automate a lot of these processes? Reduce down the friction to getting to B, point B from A, because I think a lot of companies, I've sort of, and I don't want to, I'm not trying to bash Sims as such, because we were there, but it was the processes have been at one point in Sims were fine for the times that they were there for, You know, there weren't easy ways of creating automation. But the thing is, time has moved on, and it's like it's like everything. You know, user experience is now a much more fundamental part of developing software than it ever used to be. And so, you know, all new systems and all systems that want to be challenging and being the latest and the next generation, you know, then need to have that in the forefront of their minds. So it's quite a long question, but you know, are you in Iris basically moving that sort of direction? What's your strategies around it?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of answers to that. There's we're doing lots more to make sure the design of the user interfaces in the first place is intuitive, and making sure that actually you can give someone some software and they can do the 80-20 rule, right? Here's 80% of what I need to do without any effort whatsoever, and I can just get the things I need to get done. And then, to your point, you can then grow and build on top of that and discover different parts of the software that do different things. So we definitely take that approach throughout everything that we're doing. Sometimes better than others, right? Nobody's perfect at this stuff, but that is definitely the ethos that we've got running through. We've then got some relatively modern tech built into the back end of the systems to drive some of that surveying, some of that nudges that I talked about a bit earlier. So a good example is this morning, obviously the government's talked about needing to get consent forms potentially for those being vaccinated. Actually, we've stuck a nudge in the software out to all users so that when they log in, just saying, look, here's a reminder, here's the online consent forms, here's how you can set it up, here's a little quick tutorial that will get you through it. So again, in the past, that would have been write an email, send some marketing email out, go through that process, or going further back, it would have been a paper exercise, and the schools would have been using paper to get that through. Now, announcement from this morning, live in the system, kind of by lunchtime, they're unavailable, and we can track and see who's using it. We can track if anybody's raising support tickets about it, and make sure we get the videos right. So we're much more capable of reacting to those live situations that go through by, again, some of that innovative technology that is transparent from what it's doing, but is making a difference in making sure that we're expanding that art to the possible that I talked about. So I think the combination of those things are what's making a difference to really try and reduce the friction, and combined with the integration story that we've been running for a couple of years, and we'll continue to run and continue to improve the integration between products, and then combined with actually we're doing miles more with user groups and miles more with people out there live using the system to get their feedback and to fold that into the software, so that we continue to make sure that the mat leaders and everybody else gets the things that they need. Our educators focus on what's happening to give them that time back and to focus fundamentally on the job that they're all there to do, which is teach kids. So that's it's a combination of those things that we're using to make sure that we reduce the friction.
Excellent. And I suppose there are companies out there also, I think, are doing things like Applica. I don't know if you know Applica very well, but they're sort of trying to go down where they're basically taking the workflow and making it more straightforward. It's only for applications, it's not for anything else. But I think that sort of type of innovation, you're right, to lead to non-friction, I think is going to be important for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy person, so I'm not going to take any more of your time up at the moment. We've got loads more things to do, I know, and probably loads more white papers to build as well. I should imagine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's an exciting time, right? There's loads of change going on in the industry. We think EdGen and the stuff that we've done there, the central reporting stuff that's now live, that people want to go and see that, the dashboards that you can get with the live information in, the assessment capability in there is amazingly powerful and is driving some of those quotes that I've talked about. We tried a few tests on how intuitive the software was, because we know one of the barriers for change is because teachers are used to using existing software, actually how will they feel about using new software. I've literally done 2 hours worth of demo to a school, not done anymore, chucked the software at them, and they've just got on with it and used it and managed to make their school run with very little training outside of just getting up and running. And we're building on that. That is, as we said, get you out the starting blocks, get you using it, getting you to get more value than you're currently getting out of your existing software in a very short space of time, and then build upon that so that over the next 3, 6, 9 months, they really become experts in the software. That approach we're taking seems to be working really well. So super exciting times. It's a great time to be in software, a great time to be in edtech, and definitely a great time to be listening to customers and trying to use that to have an impact.